you need this.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm still on West Coast time, so it's only looks like 7 o'clock out there. A little early for me. Got in late last night, still on California time, so of course I couldn't go to sleep till 3 o'clock this morning. But nonetheless, if I stutter a little bit, please just excuse that and just blame it on lack of sleep. We're going to talk a little bit more about what Dr. Solomon started introducing this morning in terms of the subject of Partnership for Food Protection. Talk a little bit about where we've been and where we're going and how this kind of interplays with some of the work that we're going to be doing here this week. So, essentially what Partnership for Food Protection is, it's a group of federal, state, local, tribal, territorial officials that do food safety work that are coming together and looking at ways to develop and implement an integrated food safety system across the programs. We develop tools and resources and best practices that are going to advance the IFSS, or Integrated Food Safety System. Ultimately, though, these are guidance documents. It's really up to our respective partners at the state, local, and federal level to adopt these and implement them as part of their ongoing programs. Our vision, very straightforward. Mutual reliance for a safer food supply. We've heard that term, mutual reliance. You're going to hear probably a lot more of it over the coming years. It's really how we work together and how we share and coordinate all of our activities. Our mission is to lead, enhance, promote, and sustain an integrated food safety system based on collaboration and finding of shared solutions. So you heard Dr. Solomon talk briefly this morning about PFP starting back in 2009. In 2012, we actually formalized a more specific structure to oversee the Partnership for Food Protection Governing Council. Looking at how we're going to implement our programs, how we're going to carry out the work that we do. Governing Council is made up of federal, state, and local regulatory officials that have decision-making powers in their respective programs, so they bring a level of expertise and the ability to actually help implement some of these programs back in their own program areas. Formalized decision-making process was developed so that we actually can put together strategic plans and make sure that we're moving those forward. So, Governing Council is responsible for overall leadership, management, and direction of the Partnership for Food Protection. We're going to help identify the strategic areas that we want to work on. Barbara's going to talk a little bit in a few minutes about the strategic plan that we developed last year and how that's going to advance our movement towards that integrated food safety system. We're going to establish work groups to do the work identified in the strategic plan. We're going to make sure that those work groups are staffed, and it's an all-volunteer force. We're getting volunteers from federal, state, and local agencies to put in additional time above and beyond all their day job work to ensure that they can work on these projects and help move these guidance documents forward. And then once that work is done, the Governing Council is going to review that, make sure that the work groups have the support they need, review their work products, and make sure that those get disseminated so they can be utilized. So the makeup of the Governing Council, these are your state and local representatives. We have representatives from state food safety, both from health and agricultural departments. We have local representation from local county health departments, and also from a feed agency. Bob Waltz is obviously an ENS state chemist. We've recently added a few new positions to make sure that we have representation from laboratory personnel. Gary Hovarth, our newest Governing Council member for laboratory. Peter Sheehan also joins us from a vacant at-large position. And we've added a new position from the Council of Association of Presidents. For this term, it's NASDA is representing the council, which is going to be, I think, very important as we look at implementing the produce safety rules over the coming years. That's going to be a big challenge as we move into that new area. Of course, we have representation from federal agencies as well. As you can see, we're well represented from ORA and CIFSAN and CVM. We also have representation from USDA and CDC. I know I saw Margaret in the room earlier. I don't know if David's here this week or not. But they play a critical role. It's not just FDA in the states, but also all of our federal partners that play a role in food safety. So some of our successes very briefly. This is kind of where we've been. Barbara's going to talk a little bit about where we're going. National program Crosswalk. This takes a look at the 4 regulatory programs, program standards that are already in place, and this is very helpful for programs that are doing multiple program standards, grade A milk, manufactured food, retail food, and shellfish. Kind of identifies commonalities and helps them assess their programs against the standards. We developed a model for routine work planning and collaboration. Going to be very important. We talk about mutual reliance. How do we accept each other's work? How do we work together? How do we work plan to make sure that we're not duplicating efforts? We're always going to be much stronger together than we are individually. How do we capitalize on that knowledge and that work? And especially if we come together today and we can agree on a standard set of training curriculum that all state, local, and federal agencies are going to be implementing within their programs, there's really no reason that you can't cross-accept work done by other agencies. Of course, none of us have enough staff to do all the work, so this is really important. Food and feed testing laboratory best practices manual, again, looking at ways for us to be able to share analytical work across state, federal, and local program agencies. Business process evaluation tool for inspection systems. This is mostly in the manufactured food area, but helping them go back and really look at their food inspection program, evaluate it, and make sure that they're going to be able to conform with Standard 3 under the manufactured food program standards. Been a lot of work done in this area, and I think a lot of the states that have used this tool have identified that this has really helped them enhance their inspectional protocols. Common data elements. You know, nothing is going to be more important as we go down the road, and I think I tell my staff probably 5 times a year, we live and die by the data, because we really do anymore. I mean, if you think about it, back when a lot of us started our jobs, IT systems were just starting to come into play. You know, maybe we had a couple of computers in the office. I remember when I started, I'll date myself a little bit here, we had a 386. Everyone remember what a 386 was? The 3.5-inch floppy drive. Some of you are looking at me going, what's a floppy drive, right? But we had one in the office. We had to fight for it to write our reports on. And you know, maintaining inventories and sharing information, very difficult. Just working within a state agency the size of California, trying to share information from Sacramento to LA was a challenge. Now we're looking at going to that next step. How do we share information from local and state agencies with FDA and USDA and vice versa? We had to have common data elements so that we're talking a common language. We had to have that information that we can share across the boards. Eventually we're going to be moving into, you know, GIS mapping of all the facilities. How do we respond to natural disasters together? You know, we're getting a lot of practice of that in California with the earthquakes and with the fires, you know, but being able to pull up our respective inventories, overlapping them, making sure that we're not missing any firms, and then plotting them on a map, looking at those areas that are impacted by fire or by earthquakes so we can respond together. And then Animal Feed Network, one of Jenny's projects. Really taking out, from most of you are probably familiar with PulseNet. This does the same thing for animal feed and livestock, but basically taking a look at the genetic patterns associated with pathogens associated with livestock and animal feed so they can you know, coordinate and track and look for commonalities. So we make all this information available on the website down here at the bottom, fda.gov/PFP, if you're interested in taking a look at any of the documents that the teams have put together. Been a lot of hard work put together by these volunteer groups, but these are great resources for programs that are looking to enhance their programs or just evaluate where they're currently at. We also routinely communicate through newsletters. We do disseminate them, and we have a distribution list. At the very end of the slides that Barbara gets to, there'll be a couple of emails if you're interested in getting on that list to just receive the newsletters automatically. Just send an email to Peter Giuliani, and they'll be happy to get that to you. But you can also download them from the PFP website. But it talks about some of the current activities we're working on, the current projects, moving those forward. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Barbara, and she's going to talk a little bit about where we're going and how we're going to get there.
All right, thank you, Pat. Great presentation, sort of the beginnings of PFP. I want to do an age check for the room. I'd like to interact with the audience a little bit. How many of y'all had an 8-track tape? Oh, we're old, no. It's interesting, though, to start to talk about how far things have come, how quickly things are moving forward. When you think about where we've been with the Partnership for Food Protection, you go back to the 2008 Gateway for Food Protection. It was really that 50-state workshop that was the genesis for the Partnership for Food Protection. And from that was formed a coordinating committee. It's like, how do you pull everything together and keep it moving forward? And then, of course, we went on to 2010, more work groups, more specifics about what will move an integrated food safety system forward. To 2012, where really we started talking about a governing council and a governance structure. And I got engaged I was at the 2010 helping with some work groups, so I got engaged in 2012 in the actual development of the governing council we have now. And what we sat down and said is, you know what we need? We need a strategic plan. We need a vision to get where we need to go. We need to choose what those priorities are. And Dr. Jeff Farah and I huddled someplace right after that to put together what we called a straw man and try to say, well, this is what we think from listening to everybody is a place to go. And then as a governing council, we worked through it and honed it and iteration of that. And finally got it to what I'm going to talk about right now, that we launched to the 2014 50 State Workshop and said, this is where your governing council is, this is our thinking, and help us refine it, or as Ellen Morrison would say, bash it, trash it, help us fix it, right? Help us refine it. And that's basically what we did. I want to just look around the room. Could we have hands of who's on the governing council who happens to be here? To identify other people if you want to talk to them during the break. Not very high, Jeff. And you know, we couldn't do all this. I just got to give a shout out to the number of project managers we have. Without those project managers, this work wouldn't have gotten done. And I just know I appreciate them so, so much. So we talked about 2014. We got together some lovely pictures. You probably see Dr. Solomon's up there front and center, Dennis Baker as well. We really talked through the strategic plan. And we said, what are we going to do? How are we going to implement that vision of the integrated food safety system? Mutual reliance for a safer food supply. How do we do that? What does it look like? Can we start with these fundamental pieces and then work towards that? They really were asked to comment and offer suggestions, and I'll tell you some of the plans, some of the objectives we had were totally thrown out and we started over. Some were just refined a little bit. Some of the groups were extremely robust. I'll call that word robust. And they had a lot of ideas of where they needed to go. But in the end, everyone came together and really could lay out those expectations for the future. So we agreed on the work groups. We agreed on pilot signals. I have no signal. Okay. Pilot processes and how we were going to advance an integrated food safety system. So here's, you can find the strategic plan. Here's our link. It's on our webpage. By the way, we've been doing a lot of work with the webpage to change it, to mold it, to actually make it a little more user-friendly. Always a challenge for all of us, but to make it user-friendly and also to be counting the hits we get and how long people stay on links and understand how people are using the PFP webpage. So here are the goal areas. These were we originally called them buckets, but these are the subject matters: the outreach, the work planning, compliance and enforcement, surveillance, response, and post-response. A lot of the RRT work we've done was embedded in the surveillance, response, and post-response, and these people are passionate. They are passionate for their work. Laboratory science, the lab had done a great amount of work on best practices. They wanted to continue to work. Training and certification, which Will's going to go into a little more depth, just taking that up a notch and figuring out how we take the room of all the experts we have here, all the knowledge, all the things going on in training, and how do we pull it together, particularly under the light of FSMA and the new regulations. And then, of course, a constant, as I call it, information technology. We need to get better at that. We need to be able to share data real time. I'm happy to say what I heard last week at Senior Leadership Team for ORA. We've got some great ideas, and I see some real traction working through the PFP work group here that may bring us towards the future just as early as next year. So what are we going to do? We kicked those off, right? We had a meeting with all the work group chairs, and we talked about where we want to go, and that was in December of 2014. And so the new ones are outreach, and this is outreach as in how do we promote the Partnership for Food Protection? That's really what the focus of that outreach is. How do we get the word out? How does it become a household name? What avenues do we need to use to get there? Work planning and inspections was more taking the work that we had done the previous 2 to 4 years. We had a best practices document for work planning. And how do we test, are people using it? Is it effective? Do we need to change it? To really delve down into that. Compliance and enforcement was kind of part of that work planning. And we broke it out because what? Because the membership of the 50 State Workshop said we need to break that apart. We need to tease that apart and look at it a little separately. But talk about how do we take joint enforcement actions together? What things do we do collectively together that can drive compliance in a specific commodity or industry? So to really have those deep conversations. And the laboratory science, again, to take where they were with their best practice and then move their activities forward. And of course, talking with APHL, talking about lab accreditation and blending that all together. Here are these volunteers. They have day jobs. They come together from their various knowledge, and they're pulling it for a greater good, the integrated food safety system. 5, surveillance response and post-response was a group we had from previous. We just continued them. Training and certification's been doing quite a bit of work, contributed to a lot of the work over here on the board, continuing that work. And information technology has been a struggle, and I think we're starting to get our traction now. We're starting to figure out where we need to go for the future. And the Governing Council continues to advise, review the work products, keep everyone on track with the larger vision of the strategic plan. In a couple years, we're going to be coming together this next year, 2016, as Jenny will remind me, and we're planning for that right now. And we're even talking about our go away we have in November, where the partnership Governing Council comes together with several work groups. We're talking about even, should this be a 50-state workshop, or should it be something else? Do we call it something else? So we're evolving. I think that's the point here. We are evolving as we move and look at the vision that Steve Solomon talked about. So this gives you an idea if you want to reach out to one of the work groups. This is posted on our web as well. Ryan and Troy are leading outreach. Work planning inspections, you got Susan and Jamie there. Compliance enforcement, Steve and Mildred. Surveillance response and post-response has a host of people, Travis, Brenda, Michael, and Brian. Laboratory science has also a host of people because of the various activities they have going on within that group. 2 Tims, Tim and Tim, Brenda and Cindy. Training and certification, I think we got everybody in the room today. Stan, Keith, Jim, and Alan. And then IT with Ashley and Lisa Creason. And Lisa Creason was the one who presented to us last week at Senior Leadership Team. This is the group going forward. When we get together in 2016, we're going to assess how we did for the last 2-year cycle. And then we'll be talking about, do we need to change the objectives? Do we need to change the work groups? Do we need to add other people to the makeup of the work group? Are there skill sets that we're missing? So training and certification, I'm just going to touch on these goals, and Will is going to go into detail about what the group has been doing, and I'll just pass it on to him at that point. But really it's to provide the input into the development of the standard curricula and certification programs to promote consistency and competency among the integrated food safety system workforce. What I kind of think of it as is a one workforce model. If we could have that vision of state, local, federal, one workforce model. We train folks together, we train them with the curriculum, and we can interchange people. We can support each other, mutual reliance. We can help each other out in times of need. Objectives under that is to utilize a pool of subject matter experts composed of strategic partners to work towards this national curriculum standard for regulators, and then provide input and disseminate the products at the 2015 Training Summit, which is here we are, the Training Summit. So this has been the goal. This is where this training group has really moved forward, and I want Will to share the details. I think Pat's going to join me. We're going to take a couple questions up here, but that's in a nutshell where we are with PFP.
Pat and Barbara, when the PFP charged the training certification work group with creating a curriculum, did they anticipate that this could be a big change?
Rock, paper, scissors?
I'll take this one. You get the next one.
Okay.
Next one will be harder. I think we did. I think we recognized that in a growing and an evolving food safety system, there was going to be a lot of dynamic changes that needed to be made. Just looking simply at the new rules that are going to be coming out and the mass amount of training that's going to have to be delivered, not only to just FDA personnel, but all the state personnel as well that are doing contract work or inspections in the state programs. The current way of delivering information and training wasn't going to be able to handle that type of an influx. And I think we've looked at it. I can speak for California. We've identified areas where we need to do enhanced training, and we've partnered with UC Davis and Center for Produce Safety and actually developed a lot of commodity-specific training under the RRT grant and cooperative agreement that's allowed us to help disseminate that not just within our own state but to also other states and to FDA personnel that respond to produce-related outbreaks. So I think we expected there was going to be a big paradigm shift and that there was going to be a lot of additional training that was identified to become available.
Okay, just a follow-up question. Did you all anticipate that the change could lead to some existing courses needing revisions because they may not meet the curriculum standard?
I think that's a resounding absolutely yes. When I first started talking about training under Integrated Food Safety System with FSMA coming on board, a daunting task. Training is mom and apple pie to me. It's everybody should be trained, they want to be trained, but where do you start? What are the right steps and how to get the logical steps in place? And yes, some things will become obsolete, for a better word, or they're going to evolve into a different type of training. PCs, preventive controls, will be different than our JMPs. Acknowledging that, understanding how we're going to have to approach that inspection differently.
Okay. And my last follow-up is, do you think the development of the implementation of the curriculum will have a significant positive impact on our partners?
Absolutely. I think that the partners have been asking for additional training and additional tools over the last decade, and I think that this will hopefully help give them a lot of additional resources to train their staff with. And it looks like we have a question from Mr. Klein.
Yes, hi. It's on. Ron Klein with APTO. How does the laboratory curriculum framework fit into the national curriculum framework? How can we assure that we've got continued support for that?
I think we're sitting here right now, we have to assure that it is in that national curriculum. The laboratory is an integral part of this whole process. And we can't, many times I've always felt personally like the lab might be an afterthought when we've had discussion, but they've got to be right there at the table. It's all one big picture that we're talking about.
Any other questions?
I just want to leave you with the thought that I always say, we are on a journey to an integrated food safety system, as Steve said, and the PFP is like that key vehicle to get there. And if we could all think this week about one workforce model, how do we do that? What does that look like? Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.